Hi, we're the Grave Girls from Grave Girls Podcast. I'm your host, Hawthorne.
And I'm Amaryllis. Every week we watch a different horror film, and I find a scary story that goes with it that will definitely leave you shaking in your boots.
And if you aren't wearing boots, my true crime case and murder will scare the pants off you.
And then you'll just be naked, and that's just a fun time.
So listen to us on SoundCloud and iTunes.
And follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Don't forget to check out our website at grave-girls.com.
We love you all in case we die.
Bye!
Hi there, this is John from Pint Comics.
This is the other John from Pint Comics.
And we just wanted to warn you before you tune into our quite excellent show that we may or may not use, what type of term would you use for language, John?
Swearing with flair.
Swearing with flair.
Colorful language.
Colorful language.
Or just plain out, I don't know.
Gutter talk.
Gutter talk, there we go.
You've been warned. Listen in.
You came for Pint of Comics. You've arrived at Scary Larry's House of Universal Horrors.
Van Helsing, now that you have learned what you have learned, it would be well for you to return to your own country.
I prefer to remain and protect those whom you would destroy.
You are too late. My blood now flows through her veins. She will live through the centuries to come, as I have lived.
All right, time for another Pint of Comics. We are here, Sir John, Johnny Ganache, the Manster, hanging out. And of course, this episode is a new little sub-series of episodes we'll be doing with our friend Scary Larry Dwyer. Scary Larry Dwyer from...
Scary Larry Dwyer.
That's it. You like that voice?
That voice.
From the Connecticut Cult Classics fame.
Yeah, man.
Let's see. Jesus, you're like Apollo Creed and Rocky IV with the nicknames. Yep. The Sultan of SWAT. Yep. The King of the Ring.
Disaster.
Master of Disaster. The writer for HorrorNewsNetwork.net.
Yep.
One of the guys that helps put together the CT Horror Fest.
Yep.
And I think what we want to put forward is kind of part of the reason we decided to do this was I was shopping after Christmas at Best Buy, and I saw this first thing I noticed was the Alex Ross artwork. Universal Horror Films. It's an 8-film pack on Blu-ray. It was like $42, and I had like a $60 gift card. I said, I got to get this, because I'll be totally honest. Except for probably very early in my life, I have not seen these movies. I remember seeing Creature from the Black Lagoon.
That played a lot on regular TV.
That played on regular TV. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons I remember that is because on Channel 20, way back in the day in Connecticut, they did 3D, and my dad worked for Stop and Shop, and you had to go to Stop and Shop to get your glasses.
I remember that.
And I remember my dad coming home, this is probably 1986, with 3 pair of glasses for me, my mom, and my dad, and we watched it that night. But I mean, that was it. That was when I was 11 years old, and nothing.
So you're too young to remember the 4 o'clock movie.
I remember 4 o'clock movies and stuff like that, but it was something I did watch.
Yeah, oh yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
for sure.
I'll tell you where a lot of my
After-school movies.
I'll tell you where a lot of my movie watching would come was, and you probably remember this. You guys both probably remember this. Channel 38 from Boston, the Movie Loft.
Yeah, the Movie Loft.
Yeah, Movie Loft.
Robert, whatever his name was.
The Movie Loft was like a more organized thing that the Channel 30 here in Connecticut would do with the 4 o'clock movie, which was Monday through Friday. They'd show a series of films at 4 o'clock,
right?
And it'd be Monster Week or Universal Horror Week, or
I particularly remember the Movie Loft, the Boston
Camera
Channel.
Week.
I remember seeing the Donald Sutherland remake of.
Oh yeah,
I remember being a kid and
one of the
this
creepiest movies.
Him pointing and the mouth open, and that's a very famous imagery in horrors. In horror, but I still, that's burned in my head.
It's the sound that comes out.
Yeah,
of it too.
Yeah, this craepy shit.
Did you ever see the original?
Yes, with Kevin.
Not Dylan.
Not
Kevin Dillon. Kevin. Oh boy, no.
McCarthy, right?
McCarthy.
Yeah. I did. I've seen that when I was younger.
So I actually prefer the remake on that one though.
I go back and forth because they're both very, very good.
I love Donald Sutherland. I'm a Donald
I know.
Sutherland.
I like the Donald Sutherland.
And Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Was Nimoy in that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we decided. I said, hey, look, I want to start watching these again. I've never seen them, or at least watch them. Period. Why don't we make it some shows? It's interesting subject matter, and these are very popular. And I said, why don't we get someone on here that obviously let's add some Creed to this, not Scott Stapp Creed,
Or Apollo.
Yeah, let's add. What's a better word? Let's add a little bit of weight to this, and bring Larry in. And that'll probably get
So
some
fat
of the
jokes.
I
Is what
know.
you're
Oh
saying.
yeah, yeah.
Heavyweight.
Yeah, me making a fat joke. Yeah, okay. Yeah, any day now, guys. But I figured, hey, you know what? Maybe it'll have some crossover appeal. Some of Larry's fans out there who dig all of his horror stuff, his shows, CT Club Classics, his writing there. They might say, hey, let's check this Pint out and see what Larry has to say about these things. So there's 8 movies in the DVD set.
$40 for 8 movies.
$40.
Wow,
And it
you
was
can't
Blu-ray.
go wrong with
I
that.
told you I own that set.
Yes.
It's a great
Yes.
set. It really is a great
There's
set.
actually postcards for each movie drawn by Alex Ross in there. And actually it's 9 movies because the Dracula, which is the movie we're talking about tonight, they also made a Spanish version. Same sets, different actors, and in Spanish.
Yep.
So you get 9 movies for the price of, not too much money. Wow. So tonight we were talking about...
Renfield.
but we were watching earlier. I was watching the Spanish version, clipping through, because I wanted to see what some of the scenes look like in both versions.
Yep.
And
senor.
the first scene when Dracula introduces himself to Renfield, he says, "Soy Dracula." And it was quite funny.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 1931's Dracula, Universal horror film starring Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi, the guy who went on to play Dracula several more times. Matter of fact, what's kind of funny about this and me saying that this one I've never seen before.
Really?
But as a kid, I grew up. I had seen Abbott and Costello meet Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi, probably 15 to 20 years later, many times. Hey,
Abbott! That was the final Dracula sequel.
Was that the final Dracula
Yeah, that
sequel?
was the final one.
What other ones did he do, Lloyd? I'm sure.
he did-
I know you got the notebook here.
Yeah, he's got
That's an intense
Dracula's
notebook.
daughter,
Dracula's daughter.
Son of Dracula, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and then what you just said, Abbott and Costello.
So he did this like 6 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he'd been doing it on stage before they filmed the film. That's
right.
That's where they
Oh,
found
so
it.
he okay. So
Oh
he was a
yeah,
stage actor.
Bela Lugosi was playing Dracula on stage.
Okay.
And he was not the
First choice,
first choice at
second
all.
choice, third choice.
Yeah, he was
They wanted
way
no-
down on the list.
They wanted nothing to do with
He,
it.
he lobbied hard, and he accepted $500 a week.
Well, that was the other thing, too, is
Wow.
that every one of those movies that he did after this, he made less and less money. Where you would think he'd make more and more, he took less
I mean,
and less money.
again, speaking, and we'll get into some. We don't have much box office information because it's hard.
It's hard to come
But
by.
I mean, this movie made money, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
So
No, it was
just
very-
It was
very
a hit.
successful.
It was a box office hit.
Yeah, it was so successful they started filming Frankenstein like a week later.
Right.
really.
Oh yeah, they were like, we got to do the next one. Let's go.
Speaking of, you should probably mention the director.
Todd Browning.
Yeah.
Yeah, Freaks.
Todd Browning, who I've never seen Freaks.
Oh, still never.
Never.
Really?
Oh,
We should sit down and watch that.
Okay.
all right. Shut this off. Let's go watch.
Saw that way back when on HBO as a kid.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what we'll do? We'll say this now. We have 8 movies to go through on this, and we'll make a little addendum at the end. We'll do Freaks.
Yeah, we should.
We'll add
That
that
would be
in.
a good capper.
I don't
That would
know
be
if
a
that
good
was
capper.
Universal or not.
No.
But we'll just do an episode
I
where we
don't
watch
believe it was
Freaks.
It might have
Universal.
been because directors were like signed to contracts
Yeah.
with studios. Back
Yeah.
then. So it's
In
possible
either
it was
case, we'll
possible.
figure out a way to work
I don't
Freaks into
remember.
this.
Yeah.
But when I saw the director's title on this film, I went, "Oh, Todd Browning! I know that name, and I know it's from Todd Browning's Freaks." So, Larry, in your life, how were you introduced to this version of Dracula?
My father.
Your father.
Yeah, my father. My parents were horror movie fans. My father being older than my mother, his love was the original Universal films, where my mother's was more in the Stephen King vein, and also the gushy Christopher Lee Draculas from the
Hammer.
yeah, oh yeah. And Dark Shadows. That was another from her
boy.
from her time.
Oh, the soap opera.
Yeah.
Barnabas Collins.
Yeah.
She loved that stuff. But my father was all about the older stuff. Creature from the Black Lagoon was actually his favorite of the Universal films. So when VHS tapes came into the world, he rented 1931 Dracula and was one of the first movies he ever showed me.
Wow, that's cool.
Cool. Yeah.
That's cool to have some background to it like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's most of the horror stuff that I grew up with came from my mom, with the exception of those classics. Those classics were all my dad.
John, this is something you've been familiar with your whole life, or?
I would say so. I mean, anything earlier than 1950 is pretty much the stuff that my parents would teach me about. Now, this was nothing my mother would ever sit down and watch, but she knew all the actors. I mean, does anyone here know the name Farley Granger?
I've heard it for sure. Yeah,
that was a name my mother would go, "Oh, Farley Granger." So, I grew up knowing.
Sounds like a piece of like fucking like yard equipment.
It does, doesn't it?
So you came home with a brand new Farley Granger. How much did that cost you? A pretty penny, I might say. Pretty penny indeed.
But again,
you got a garage full of Farley Grangers out there.
But my dad never really went to the theater much, and if he did, he didn't talk about it. He would just say, I saw this movie. This is a really good movie. And
your dad only saw John Wayne movies, right?
Not only, but
my dad loves some John Wayne.
Yeah, too. Primarily John Wayne was a thing, but he also was a big fan of Creatures from the Black Lagoon. I don't know what that movie particularly. He would always say, "That's a good movie to watch. Sit down and watch that." And I don't know if it was so much the creature or if it was the girl.
Yeah.
Well, she was attractive.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. All right, Lloyd, are you a longtime fan? I know you're a fan of some of the goth rock, and I know you're a fan of the. I know you're a fan of what.
He's not wearing a Bauhaus shirt.
We gave it away. The Bauhaus shirt.
Yeah. I just noticed you're wearing a Bauhaus shirt. Bela Lugosi's dad.
Yeah,
right?
I had one of those too, but yeah, no, I my dad was the horror movie guy in my family, and my dad and I would watch movies together. I don't recall particularly, this one being one we watched together or anything like that. But I did read the book. I was a big reader when I was a young teenager, and I read Count Dracula, by Bram Stoker, and I really liked it. And the movies would be on TV back in those days, so
all the time.
I saw it through there. Yep.
All right, so 3-1. Okay,
movie for a rained out Sunday.
So I just saw this yesterday, as a matter of fact, and so this what I think was interesting right off the bat, and I kind of read this before when I was doing a little research, but it also tells you right in the title card. This movie is not based on the book, right? The Bram Stoker book,
loosely based.
Loosely, this movie is based particularly on the play,
right? Which
that was adapted.
Based.
So Hamilton Dean and John L. Balderstein.
Which, not to interrupt you, was why Bela Lugosi was so mad that they didn't immediately come to him to play this role, because he was playing it.
So he originated the role.
This was him. He was playing.
He created this role.
And they were adapting, just like you just said, the play into a movie, and he's like, "Oh, that's mine." And they were like, no, we want somebody else.
Yeah. They thought his English diction was bad.
Yeah. Which it was. I mean, it wasn't great, but it certainly fits with the role of Dracula.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the other
it kind of makes
is,
me think of, real quickly, I just want to say, it kind of makes me think of Jeff Conaway, Jeff Conaway
just before you finish this conversation.
Really
Bela Lugosi, Jeff Conaway.
Jeff Conaway was Danny Zuko in the original run of Grease for many years.
Yeah.
The movie comes out, and they give it to Travolta, and they give him
in my grave.
They give him a secondary role.
I actually never knew that.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
So
that.
I mean, imagine how he must have felt. I mean, there's got to be a little bit of disappointment in there.
I'm sure there is.
But you
I've
have
been
to look
doing
at it this way too:
Yeah.
Bela Lugosi was actually making a lot of money on stage playing this role, and then he goes to do the films, and everything goes downhill.
Yeah,
which is weird when you think about it. But
I will say the format of this movie. There's no score to this movie.
Right.
There is music in the beginning during the credits.
Yeah.
But there's no score in this movie at all.
Okay. I watched a copy of it over the last couple of nights, and there was music playing, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is not original.
In the 2000s,
someone added something.
I wish I wrote it down. I didn't write it down. An orchestra made a score to it, and there's actually an option on the Blu-ray to play it with that.
Don't.
And I didn't. I watched it. I watched it the way it was. But what I was going to say was, with the format, without the score, and this being a movie from 1931, it felt to me like I was watching a play. Even the credits for the actors, it says the players.
Right.
It felt very much like a play.
Yeah.
To me, a lot of the set dressing. I gotta say, one of the first things I noticed right off the bat, the matte painting work in this movie is good.
Yeah.
The very first scene when the wagon is going through the mountains, that looks better than some movies I've seen made in the 70s that do similar things. You know,
Yeah.
There are some scenes. The boat on the water at one point is not so great. and a couple other
There's only
things.
so much you can do.
You know, there's a couple things here and there, but
Being in black and white also is pretty forgiving.
Yes,
when you're
yeah,
talking
very.
about stuff like that.
And that type of matte canvas painting that came from an earlier, I think 1920,
Yeah, you're right. They used something
the
else.
cabinet of Dr.
Caligari.
Caligari.
that's another one I've heard of.
that
I've never seen.
created that style, that whole matte painting, painting canvases, distorted visuals, like spooky effects from light and shadow and stuff. That from that point forward.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd heard that they used something from. I guess they probably did that a lot back then.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know they did it with sets. They probably did it a lot with props and pieces.
I got to be honest, the set work on this was pretty damn good.
It's really good.
Dracula's castle, particularly like the underground section of it, looked really good to me.
I just have to say that. I mean, Renfield shows up to Dracula's castle. He gets in there, and
Which is completely different than the book.
and he looks around, and it's just like a shithole.
Well, he even mentions that he when he brings him upstairs to like the parlor, he's like, "This section of my house
More
is
to your
better,"
liking.
and he's like, "Better than that shithole downstairs, man."
But hold on, you're Renfield, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to see this guy.
You're
named
looking
Count
forward
Dracula.
to it.
Well, everybody's telling you, "Hey, dude, not a great idea."
Right.
You know what Renfield is? Renfield is a 1930s fucking businessman. He's I'm just about making bank, son. But he's like, I ain't turning around at the board. Every time they say, I wrote it down, Borgo's Pass, people are like,
Borgo's Pass.
the Borgo's Pass. Mamma mia. You go to the Carpathians, you stop at the Borgo's Pass and jump in the water. Like they're
Vigo the Carpathian.
they're warning him left and right, and he's like, "Look,
He's like,
I
"No,
got
I'm
a pen, I got some papers. Count Dracula's buying Carfax Abbey, son. I got to get up there." He truly doesn't, and that's when
Got a beautiful ride up there.
he had a nice ride.
Yeah,
And,
from a fucking bat. As soon as you look out and see the bat is driving, it's time to fucking leave.
Yeah, no, Renfield doesn't fuck around. I like how the weirdest thing in Renfield's entire trip wasn't that the bat drove him there; it was that his luggage got lost.
Yeah.
He brings up to Dracula 9
I'm very
times.
concerned about my
He
luggage.
had to jump
got
out of
your
that
luggage.
stagecoach.
He had to jump,
jump out.
He had to jump out of the stagecoach. A bat was driving it. Yet meanwhile, he treats Dracula like he works for fucking United Airlines. He's like, another thing, by the way, did you notice that my luggage didn't make it here? And Dracula's like, I've got you a nice table and, I don't know, turkey leg. And he's like, and a bed looks very comfortable. He's like, yes, but can we talk about my luggage? Is there a number? Do you have a supervisor that I can call?
Maybe, I don't know if the bat took my luggage.
There was a bat on a fishing rod. And it was driving the horses. I don't know what the fuck's happening here right now.
But my
Never mind.
luggage,
But my
was
luggage
missing.
is still missing. I want to point that out. I want to bookmark that and put a pin in it.
It's bringing the audience into it because honestly, if someone stole your luggage in 1931, you'd want to know about it too.
I would say so. I would say so. So Ren, right off the bat, that's an immediate difference. Is Renfield is, and I noticed this just from being a fan of like the movies that I've seen, is that it's not Renfield in every other story or the book. It's Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I can tell you,
Renfield in the book is already in
He's
an
already
asylum,
insane.
already
nuts.
He's
yeah,
in London.
eating fucking spiders.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
doing his thing.
So we get introduced to Renfield, and he goes in and he meets up with Dracula, assesses him the luggage situation, and Dracula. What I love about Dracula in this movie, what I love about the Bela Lugosi Dracula, is that he's just so aloof.
Yeah.
Like
He's
like,
just nonplussed by
there's
everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing like
Mr. Renfield.
tomorrow we will go to sign papers. Yeah.
I love when he hands him the sheaf of papers and Dracula's looking at them like they're important.
Yeah, like Dracula knows like Dracula knows what a TPS sheet is.
He wasn't just give him wine.
Did he get the memo?
Mr. Renfield.
Yes, this is very old wine. I hope you will like it.
So the very old wine is Dracula's blood, and the other line that's very famous that I actually had never gotten to see in a movie before. Yes.
Children of the Night.
Yes.
What music they make.
Yes. Renfield, like you said, he's a baller because I would have been out the door. When I heard the vampire foxes or whatever the fuck that was screaming outside.
Right.
There was a lot less action than in the Bram Stoker 1992 movie with the brides. The brides the brides just kind of woke up and stared at him for a minute.
Yep.
There's a lot of staring in this movie.
Well, there is a lot of staring.
There is a
lot
ton
of staring by Bela Lugosi.
Yes, exactly.
Bela Lugosi stares more than he has lines. And I don't know if it was a switchblade or a piece of mirror, but like the way they got his eyes.
They got the lighting around the eyes.
Lit up all the time, yeah. And I know we discussed it earlier. Larry's wearing the Bela Lugosi shirt. I know you had kind of made a mention that like he was a sex symbol at the time, and I ain't getting it because
I don't see it myself, but
he looks like, honestly, Bela Lugosi looks like he could have been the Fourth Stooge, with his, just kind of with his hair slicked back. Like I almost picture Shemp when his hair starts coming undone.
But Dracula's a very romantic character, is what it is.
I get that when I see the Gary
vampire
Oldman
has always been a romantic character.
See, that's what I hear what you're saying there. I like my vampires like ripping your face off.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like, you know,
you like Edward Cullen, like that
no
shit?
sparkling and shit. No, I like I don't like the movie very much, to be honest with you. But example of vampires I like is 30 Days of Night.
No, that's a good.
I don't care for the movie so much, but I like the fact. I didn't even
like the comic.
I like the comic, but
is that Steve Niles?
Steve Niles, yes.
Okay.
I just like the fact.
Come on, guys,
you got it.
I'm on Pint of Comics. I got a comic thing correct.
And
it wasn't Marvel or anything.
I like the fact that
Robin Christine would be very happy.
Very proud.
You're gonna have to send a message that I knew that.
I'll send this over ASAP.
They'll be very happy I knew that.
Larry knew a comic creator. That wasn't Chris Claremont, because you called that out a couple weeks ago somewhere, right?
Well, I was watching your video live, and as soon as he started talking, you guys were like, I'm like, Chris Claremont! Chris Claremont! Because, like, that's my X-Men, that's why I know.
That's your zone?
Yeah, I know Chris Claremont.
Chris Claremont.
Chris Claremont. The sound of the children of the night. It's actually a couple of hobos' dogs. All right, so Renfield drinks the wine, all right? He enjoys the wine. Next day, crack addict. Like he drank Dracula's blood, and now he is Gollum.
We skipped the paperclip.
Yes, we did. We missed the paper.
Yeah, you can't.
So
paperclips
one of the
very
creepiest
sharp
scenes
in the 30s.
Larry, tell us about paperclips in 1931.
So apparently in 1931. When you're thumbing through some real estate papers that you need Dracula to look over.
I'll have my guy do that.
I have a guy for that.
Apparently, if you happen to nick yourself on the paperclip that's holding together these papers,
well, they have very sharp paper clips.
You will lose an inch and a half of skin and pour blood all over the place.
And what nobody told you before you watch this movie is that Renfield's heart is in his pinky because he lets out a geyser, a steaming hot geyser of blood.
And it's very much like Johnny Depp's in Nightmare on Elm Street scene. That pretty much came out of his hand.
Yeah, I guess that works almost the same amount that once he cuts his finger, Dracula, who's like nonplussed about everything, suddenly zeroes in and gets a blood boner like immediately.
Aren't they all blood boners?
As opposed to the again, I'm going to bring it up again because this is kind of the Dracula that I've seen more than any, the Francis Ford Coppola one, which has that great scene where Keanu Reeves as Harker is shaving with a straight razor. He cuts himself, and Gary Oldman with his giant bouffant hairdo glides across the room, grabs the razor, and then licks it. It's basically the same scene, except Bela Lugosi does nothing but stare.
Because he tries to go in,
right? He
goes Renfield's crucifix falls out.
That's right. And
the one that we had the picture of earlier,
right?
And trust me,
I wanted to bring that up.
Which scene would you think is more creepy? The original or the remake?
The remake.
Really? I don't know.
When he licks that razor with his paper thin skin and his hair,
that's imagery in a different way. I'm looking at this old movie with the creepy Renfield. Oh, I just stabbed my thumb. Oh, and
Renfield is played by Nathan Lane.
Well, listen to him until he becomes the subservient. he is kind of an effete, and he's like really out there.
Renfield played by Dwight Fry,
Who
died like 12 years later of a heart attack.
Really?
On a bus in Hollywood.
Now I know why I never heard. Because I was going to ask you on this. Why did we never hear about this actor?
I looked it up,
in the way that
today.
we did Bela Lugosi.
He was in. I didn't realize this. I guess I'm sure you know this.
Very accomplished theater actor.
Oh, really?
And the same year as Dracula, I guess The Maltese Falcon was filmed prior to.
There was an earlier version.
He was in the earlier version of The Maltese Falcon.
And a lot of people look at that as a superior version.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't.
I've never seen it.
When I saw it on the IMDb, I said 1931. That movie's not that old. And then I looked at like the Sam Spade character, and it wasn't Humphrey Bogart. No. So I realized it was him. So right before Dracula, he starred in that, and then in like 43, he died.
Huh.
But you say superior film. I don't know what you've read, but a lot of people consider the Spanish version of this 1931 Dracula to be a superior film.
I heard that.
I'm going to be honest.
We can get into it.
I started to watch that, and I'll get into it real quick, and we'll talk about it more. I started to watch through it.
Senor Dracula.
Soy Dracula. But I did watch certain scenes because it was filmed in the same sets.
Yeah.
Certain scenes were much creepier in the way they were filmed.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when he's going to the Burgos Pass, there's like a giant bonfire in the middle of a field. They did certain things differently. And I got to say, some of it was actually a little bit better.
Well, what they did was, it was filming at the same time.
Yeah.
They filmed at the same time.
Right, night and day, right?
Yeah, the English version was filmed during the day, and then at night, they'd abandon the set. Spanish actors would come in and they would film that. But what they would do is watch the dailies of what was recorded during the day and say, "Oh, how can I make this better? How can I use the camera to do better on this angle?" And that's what they did. A perfect example. I don't think it's better. I think the Bela Lugosi version is better. But the Spanish version does have some parts that they definitely did better. And one is when our Renfield in the English version walks in to the castle, and you just see Bela Lugosi as Dracula walking down the steps to him.
He's standing with a lantern.
In the Spanish version, he comes in, and he's looking around, and a bat flies by, and then you just see the bat goes this way, and then the Spanish Dracula standing on top of the steps. So it tells you that bat just turned into. So it's a little bit scarier, a little bit better. And there's some things.
The scene later on when Van Helsing uses the mirror. On Dracula and then shows him. In the English version, he just kind of reacts like he's pissed, but he just kind of knocks it out of his hand. In the Spanish version, he's holding a cane. He smashes it. There's cigarettes all over the ground, and then he stares down. The Dracula in the Spanish version, the actor, and I didn't write the name down, looks very much like
Carlos Villar.
Right. He looks like you could see a similarity between him and Bela Lugosi. The guy who played Van Helsing in the Spanish one is much dumpier. He's not the Van Helsing we get in the English movie isn't exactly like Hugh Jackman named Van Helsing. Thank God.
He reminds me almost like Roddy McDowall in Fright Night.
Yes,
he's like older,
kind of the glasses are very cool. Those little tiny glasses.
Yeah.
The guy in the Spanish version is not as cool. So I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch a bit of it to kind of get a feeling.
If you also watch it, you'll see that I don't know their names in the Spanish version, but the Lucy and Mina are much better in the Spanish version as well.
Yes, actually, the Lucy is much hotter too. She's much 1931 hotter.
That's for sure. And the scene where Mina, there's a scene where Mina attacks Jonathan in the Spanish version that's not really shown in the English version.
Yeah,
she never attacks.
No, the only way you know something's wrong with her, she's kind of got an attitude.
Well, she actually goes for the neck, and it zooms in on her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because there's a scene where that happens, and the camera pans away.
The camera pans away a lot in this movie, and I
get
it.
You never see in the Spanish version they didn't pan away.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But to me, Bella was better. Bella really seals the deal for me.
Yeah,
I mean, Bella's a lot better than Carlos Villar.
Honestly, can't come away. I've been dead for 30 years.
Sorry, Charlie.
Renfield now is under Dracula's influence. He's under his power. And he is full on Gollum. All right, I've got to look it up. But
Master, we're almost in England, Master.
Andy Serkis
he's basically talking like that.
Yeah,
he is basically.
Andy Serkis had to have
the sun has gone down, Master.
Of that on there.
I bet you he has.
Because there was points where it was like at the end of this movie, I came away thinking Dracula. Okay, in the end, the movie For me, it was okay. I'm not a huge fan. I put everything in the idea of 1931.
You have to. It's a totally different way of
storytelling.
And
totally
I think if you watch
acting.
it
You have to think about
multiple times, you'll come
talkies
away
were
with
still
more.
fairly new, so
Yeah.
they hadn't.
And again,
done
I
too
didn't
many
come
of
away going it was a waste of time. I just said to myself, okay, I didn't love that as much as I'd hoped to. But the one thing I certainly came away with was Renfield and Dwight Fry was much creepier than Dracula.
Oh yeah,
much creepier.
Yeah.
There's one we were talking about scene where a second ago that creeped you out where he kind of like looks at the blood. There's a scene later where the nurse faints and then it's a scene of Renfield crawling towards her body.
Yeah.
And the guy has the craziest fucking eyes.
He's got
that whole
he
scene.
played it up really
Yeah.
well. He really did. I was impressed myself because I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, and I'm watching it. I'm like, what happened to this guy? This guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's compare Renfields. Him or Tom Waits?
I always like Tom Waits.
I
but
love Tom Waits too.
I'm going to go with Dwight Fry.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
What do you think? What do you think, Lloyd?
I liked it, Dwight Fry.
I'm going to have to go with the original too because it's just he is just so over the top creepy in an era that doesn't have that creep factor yet. They don't know what they're doing. He's just
Oh, he was by
blatantly
far the
creepy.
creepiest thing in the movie.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You know,
You can tell he's a
the most
gifted character
entertainer.
actor.
Oh, yeah.
He's a gifted actor.
If he had lived longer,
he's
he would be
probably
much
the best
more
actor
well-known.
in the film. He's probably the best actor.
That's
in the
what
entire
I was
film.
coming. I'm like, why am I not hearing about this guy? Now I know why. He's been
Well,
dead for
it's kind of
50,
almost
60
an
years.
easy race too, because if you think about the actors in the film, so Lugosi is Dracula and he does what he does, but he's kind of there it's kind of a very minimal style of acting.
Yeah.
He stares at you. He says things like
They shine a nice light on his
Right.
eyes.
Oh, that effect is just
I'm going to come,
overdone.
I'm going to come back later tonight to check on you. No, I'm going to go to bed. Leave me alone. Yeah.
Some of the lines he says though are just with his accent make the line that much better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's really good at delivery. You got to give him that.
absolutely.
I
and
do
the
like
accent really makes the character.
Oh
too.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Oh no.
Definitely.
Just the way he says things. I
Are
mean,
you Dr. Seward?
look, anybody in the world that makes a joke based on Dracula.
Count Chocula talks like that for a fucking reason. Count Chocula talks like that because of Bela Lugosi.
Anybody in 2019 that makes a joke based on Dracula uses
from
that.
Fucking
Well,
Sesame
yeah,
Street.
there you go.
Yeah.
He has spawned a legion of
One.
breakout characters. 2 bouncing balls.
They call me the Count because I love to count.
So they get into the boat. They take off to England to go see Carfax Abbey, the new place, Dracula's new pad.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. He's got a new pad. He's living it. He broke
wants
up.
to
He
spread
broke
his
up.
wings.
He broke up with a girl named Sheila back in Transylvania.
Yeah.
And he said, "You know what? Why do I stay here? I can go to England and get some puss, whatever." So he goes over to England. He eats everybody on the boat.
Except for Renfield.
Except for Renfield, that's a pretty cool scene actually. The boat effect is a little 1931.
Yeah. It's a little fucking Marshall, Will, and Holly in the bathtub river.
But I kind of did like the scene where they don't show the authorities who are at the dock, but they're like
They're
the
talking,
captain's frozen to the wheel, and they open the doors,
see
and
the
Renfield's at
shadow.
the bottom of the thing, just like fucking mental.
Yeah.
He's gone mad
With a bunch
No,
of
he's already
boxes
been
of
mad.
dirt.
Yeah, just boxes of.
Yeah, we just got tons of dirt down here.
Yeah, what's on your manifest? Transylvanian dirt. Oh, and a dead guy in a box.
That's gotta stink.
Yeah, really.
Oh my god.
He does come out immaculate after sleeping in that dirt, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's dressed to the nines
Yeah.
all the time.
Hey, he cleans up nice.
When he's walking down the street and he's fully aristocratic with the top hat and the cane, and I'm like,
The scenes where he's
how
not
does
wearing
he not stand out?
the scenes where he's not wearing the cape, you realize he's basically just in a tuxedo all the time.
Right.
It's
with that brooch and the ascot and everything going on there. Oh god, I do this for you.
So this is the part of the movie that it's almost like if it was made now, there would be like a like Walking on Sunshine. This is Dracula moves to England. He's walking on sunshine. Hey,
Don't it feel good?
It
He
feels
just
so
starts
good.
killing right away.
Immediately
Just
kills a
walking
cigarette
down
girl.
the street, you know.
What was she? A newspaper girl? Cigarette girl?
Yeah, some cigarette girl, I'd say.
She's got type A.
Just a random girl in the dark.
Yeah.
Just a random girl in the dark under the one street light.
He's like, hey, if Jack the Ripper didn't get her first, he dibs on her.
I'm going to look at you.
Yeah, he gives her
That's always funny. The whole run, just staring and making people do things.
Look at this bright light that goes across my eyes.
Yeah. Not here. Or here.
Or here so much.
So much here.
Hello, I am Count Dracula. You can do what I say.
I will.
Okay, Count Dracula.
And
Clean my shoes.
I like how London is particularly stereotypically foggy. It's not even foggy; it's on fire. There's smoke everywhere. So Dracula's living a new life, living in London.
Toxic smoke machines.
And he goes to the opera.
Goes to the theater,
Goes to the theater. And who does he meet at the theater,
He sees
Lloyd?
Miss Dr. Seward.
Dr. Seward, who runs the local sanitarium.
Yes, and I guess his daughter Mina, Jonathan Harker.
I want to talk about Jonathan Harker.
Their friend Lucy, who's really intrigued by
Lucy's kind of like the town.
By the count,
Yeah,
yeah.
Lucy's a little loose.
Loosey goosey.
Yeah, Lucy's a little goosey. She's immediately.
I wanted to get in his pants.
He literally.
Well, she's 1930s.
Yeah,
That's a different.
Oh yeah,
loose.
no, she's willing to go like.
I'm going to show you my ankles.
Yeah.
First base.
Yeah, she's gonna take a sock off near you at some point. Dracula doesn't even step into their opera box, and she's like, "I want him," and he's just like,
And Dracula goes, "She wants me."
he's like, "I don't know much about
will
these
get her
English bitches,
first."
but I know this one wants me."
She's like dibs.
So Dr. Seward he runs the sanitarium that Renfield is
That
now in.
Renfield is in now. Yeah.
So he's got a man on the inside. And see, this is where the whole movie gets kind of weird to me because there really isn't much of a plot to this movie.
No,
Right.
not really.
It's just basically
Things are
Dracula.
happening.
Things are happening.
Things are happening.
Right? So Dracula becomes kind of entangled with Mina. He likes Mina, but Mina is dating the Harker, who is
Their fiance.
Harker's just a
fiancés.
ridiculous character. This guy is just
Thankfully, they didn't change that for the latest one when they used Keanu
Reeves. Yeah.
For some reason, I just had a
Dracula, dude.
a strange thought.
No way, Dracula.
Dracula in 1931 is basically the 1931 version of the Big Lebowski. Is what's happening here.
But with no actual plot.
Right.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The Big Lebowski has no plot. It's just the dude living his life. And we're following it for some fucking weird reason.
Because Samuel Elliott is telling you to.
Exactly.
Yes.
And honestly, Dracula is like, okay, so what's happened so far?
Going to England.
He's just going to England.
He's just going to England. He just wants to just,
I want to suck your blood.
Like, did they
extend
ever
his
say
influence, I guess.
Right. So he wants to extend his
From
influence.
Transylvania.
He wants to bring over a little Transylvania flavor over to London.
He doesn't bring his wives. He leaves
Leaves them behind.
Yeah.
He brings dirt.
He brings dirt.
He brings Renfield.
Yeah. He needs the dirt to live in it.
He has to live in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to cleanse him. And
Well, he brings Renfield, but then Renfield ends up in the fucking loony bin.
And then there's
Right, and
this.
he tries to break him out at some point, right?
But he does. I don't know.
Sort
Does he
of.
break him out, or does he just get a? He's out. All
No,
of a
he
sudden.
doesn't. I don't
no,
think he doesn't
Seward
break him
brings
out.
him. Seward
Yeah.
brings him
Because
to the house.
he goes to Seward and he wants Renfield from Seward.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if
I think
Seward
he
I
goes-
fell
escapes,
asleep.
actually.
I fell asleep at this point last night, very tired.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and
Damn it,
I
John.
slept watched about 20 minutes of it. But then when I got home from work, I rewatched it.
when Mina and Jonathan are having their fight.
The fight that lasts like fucking 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just and,
Oh, there's a bat.
and he's swinging. Okay, so let's get there real quick. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
It's no Danny Glick in Salem's Lot falling outside the window.
There's none of that.
That's damn
That
sure.
will never
The fucking
ever-
rubber bat. It's no Danny
Super
Glick.
creepy.
Oh, Danny,
So
scratching on
think-
the window.
I think
Hate that kid.
David
He
Manners.
haunted your
me out.
dreams.
He does. Look, I got Burrow right there.
Oh, nice.
David Manners played Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
And he played him very effete.
Very manners
Yeah,
like.
this is not the guy. Okay, this is the guy that if you don't want your daughter getting porked, let her go
Yeah,
out with
go
Jonathan
with
Harker because he's going to talk about feelings and wear his capri pants with his socks pulled up to his dick. It's just the truth. Dracula gets Lucy. He kills
right.
her.
He's the first one.
She
has some
kills her
blood
first
transfusions the next day and
Yeah.
doesn't survive.
in a one of those weird like old timey
Oh,
operating
shit.
theaters.
yeah, theater. Yeah. That's right.
Well, guys, I
didn't
fucked up.
mean to
She's
do
dead.
that.
Kills Lucy.
Yep.
And then he focuses entirely on Mina. He just wants to get into Mina's life. He wants to be like, for whatever reason. Now, again, in the book, I'm sure there's much more to it.
He wants to be Mr. Mina.
He wants her to want him.
Right. In the Bram Stoker
He
Dracula.
started singing Cheap Trick to her. I want you to want me.
In the Bram Stoker Dracula in 1992, they made this whole thing where they were like lovers through time. And this one was just like, I'm bored. Fucking, I'd take Mina. and this is when we're introduced to Van Helsing.
Yes.
We're at the Seward House.
1900s version of Van Helsing.
Yeah,
I mean, he was already 85 by the time this movie
Van
came
Helsing,
out.
who is played by an actor who has a name that sounds like a character name in the movie, Edward Van Sloan.
Perfect.
Yeah, he's already got like an awesome name anyway.
And he's got that defined American English accent that they all had at that period. You know, well, this is what I'm going to do. I forget what they called it. There's an actual
like
diction,
an enunciation,
the diction that they had, and the way they pronounced words and stuff. It's annoying to listen to because
Americans hadn't yet completely bastardized the
language. Exactly.
Yeah. there was still some sophistication to the way we talked back then. They introduce Van Helsing, and they don't introduce him in like any way other than he's in a lab coat.
Yeah, they don't really explain.
He's
what
in a lab
his
coat,
role is.
and he's looking at Lucy's. Was he looking at Lucy's body or her paperwork? And he's just like, "It's a vampire."
Yeah,
like
he was like, analyzing the blood. I think.
Sorry, I just killed Larry.
He brought out the wolf's bane at some point.
He brings the wolf's bane. I wish at this point now I get it.
He brings out the essential oils.
Yes.
I get it. 1931. I understand that we're trying to make an hour and 20-minute movie, but I wish they had said at some point, we brought an expert in the occult.
He was just there.
He's just there, and then he's just like
it's not necessary.
He's like
to
puncture.
know.
Oh, puncture next to the puncture wounds in the neck, vampire.
Yeah.
Get some wolf's bane. And they're just like, what?
Wolf's bane.
Wolf's bane. Which later on, Mina, after she is taken by Dracula, she says that terrible smelling weed. And all I can think about is like ganja man. She's like, that terrible smelling weed. And Snoop Dogg's like,
can you get that crucifix away from him?
Their reaction, by the way, the vampire's reactions to crucifixes in this thing is just mild irritation. Like
not with the paper cut.
The paper cut was mildly like, okay. So think of a movie, and again, I know we're talking about
He
now.
doesn't go running away from it.
If you were a vampire, if you were a vampire,
No, it's just a cut.
I touch you with a crucifix, it would burn. There'd be smoke coming off you. So yeah, the paper cut, he kind of turns away, and then later on, when Mina is a vampire, Harker has the crucifix in his hand, and he touches it, and she's just like, oh. Like, oh boy. That
what are you doing with that?
Yeah, that itches kind of. I don't like it. So again, I know we're not going to see a lot of really violent stuff in this thing, but
special effects. Come on,
no,
you got lights on the eyes. It's the best you're going to get.
A lot of mirror effects.
Yeah,
a lot of mirror effects.
Or flapping bats.
Flapping
bats.
Fishpole bats.
What was the guy?
Hold on, we forgot a whole very, very, very important thing, that when they were still at Dracula's castle in Romania, there were armadillos.
Yes, which are not native to there.
Oh, certainly not native.
No,
for sure.
There was also a lot of opossums coming out of that.
Right.
They must have had a giant budget for rodents in this thing. Because
I remember the first time watching it. I'm like, Dad, why is there a fucking armadillo in Romania? Like,
that was weird.
That's from Texas.
They had armadillos back then.
But not in fucking Romania.
Yeah, when I watched it, I did think that. I thought armadillos are kind of a
Texas
deserty American
Phoenix
thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't see them. That's just weird.
Like
a cactus growing in the middle of a fucking staircase.
What was the name of the guy that worked for I forget which family he worked for, but he was the servant. He's out there shooting at the bat every time he shows up.
That was Martin.
He
was the guy with the bad Cockney accent.
Yes,
he was.
Guy.
He was the
that guy's crazy.
Comedic relief at the time.
No kidding.
Oh,
but it was so shocking and so scary.
I'm shooting at a bat again. That big grey bat is here.
The thing that's crazy
and
about
then the
it.
maid was with him too.
Right.
He also shot that bat.
The maid was Briggs.
Oi, look at the bat. Oi.
It's an English production of a movie, and they can't get a guy who actually can speak Cockney English. That guy's crazy, he doesn't even fucking sound English.
He sounded
at
like
all.
the crocodile. Huh?
Yeah, he's terrible. He's terrible.
Crikey! Look at that one.
It's like James Coburn doing an Australian accent.
And they're the absolute worst sanitarium ever, because you think that they would have at least like locks on the doors.
Come here, you! I'm gonna put you away again.
The nurse puts her in the bedroom, comes out, and Harker's like, tell her I'm here. No, we put her to bed. And then she comes down the hall. She's like, oh, I had the most terrible dream. And the nurse isn't even surprised. She's like, we suck at what we do. Like here at Seward's, we fucking suck.
Yeah, we ran out of locks.
Like if you are like a loving family member and you send someone you love here for care, you don't love them.
There's either a comedic television show in whatever we're talking about right now, or a good comic book. Here at Seward's.
So we kind of go through the whole thing where Dracula makes Mina into his servant, and this movie races to the only way I can really describe it is a non-conclusion.
Yeah, the end comes.
The
It's
ending
a conclusion.
The ending
It just
is
kind of ends.
I think I said it to my wife tonight as I was watching. Because my
After
wife,
the staking
that's the thing
that
is
you don't
well,
see.
the staking that you never see.
No, you skipped over the part where Mina tells Harker, I guess we don't have a love anymore. I
Right,
can't
she breaks
love
up
you
with
anymore.
him. She breaks up with him because she's.
But in the Spanish version, that's where she fucking bites him.
Oh, does she? Yeah, all right.
She tries to.
She tries to bite him. And
She gets horny over his neck.
Yeah.
He's like.
Doesn't
he's like,
the
well,
maid walk in or something, or somebody walks in on them?
Briggs keeps walking in everywhere. the nurse. She's like, well, again, I have nothing to secure or lock up. I might as well walk down this hallway. And, again, and then like Harker's like showing his fucking muscular neck that can't fucking fight off anybody, and she's just like she does the Dracula stare to his neck. She's like, oh boy, and then she starts to move in on him, and that's when he brushes her slightly with the crucifix, and she kind of backs off from that.
Well, she wasn't he sitting there and going, why are you looking at me that way?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me that way?
Yeah, because he's never had a woman look at him like that before. He's like,
just Jesse.
yeah, really. Well, he is. He's kind of like the Jesse from Nightmare on Elm Street 2 of this movie.
And again, it's like the camera is sitting right on the actress that's playing Mina's face as she's staring into the camera as you're on your 30th minute of stares.
Yeah.
Then Dracula basically comes in and then just like he breaks so to a certain point he had been acting like an aristocrat and acting like he just was like a neighbor. And then once the mirror trick happens and they know that's
Wilson.
the vampire test, he suddenly is just like straight up like, no, she's mine.
Yeah.
He's like, now she's mine.
Mina's mine, I would have
He's like,
her.
mine, I'll take her. He's like going back to Carfax
And then
Abbey
he tries
with her.
to get him into the trance.
Van Helsing
he
is
tries
too
to get
strong.
Van
Van Helsing's like,
Helsing.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Van Helsing.
Bullshit.
Yeah. I did like
he
that
is
scene.
too strong for me.
I did like that scene. It
Your will is
wasn't
strong.
necessarily
Yeah, that's
filmed
right.
wonderfully, but it was a cool idea that Van Helsing is just like Jabba the Hutt.
It's like Luke fucking Jedi
when
mind
Luke
tricks.
tries to, and then
Yeah,
Van
right.
Helsing's like, eat that do puta wookie.
He's Watto.
He's Watto, yeah. Hey, boy, this does not work on me. I am a Jewish bug from space. So Van Helsing basically says, back the fuck off with your mind tricks. It ain't working on me. And then Dracula's like, doesn't matter. I'm still taking Mina.
Bitch.
She's mine, bitch.
He's
So
like, can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. This train's riding to the top, motherfucker. He takes Mina with like no resistance from anybody.
No.
He just
Especially not Harker.
takes her. Mina does this like zombie walk everywhere she goes now. She's just completely in a trance. Harker and Van Helsing are obviously the action heroes of this film. The effeminate guy who wears his trousers up to his fucking legs, and the 80-year-old dude with a fucking with bifocals the thickness of my
You see
head.
the fucking future with those things.
If he looks into the sun, his head fucking sets on fire. So they go to Carfax Abbey, and again, as I watch this, I can only say one thing: in action ending, because basically the way this movie ends is Dracula goes to sleep and gets murdered in his sleep by Van Helsing. Off camera.
He kills Renfield.
He gets back.
Renfield.
Because Renfield almost sold him out.
Right. He
sold him
thinks
out.
Renfield sold him out for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And takes care of him on the stairs, and he slowly rolls down those steep
Leave
stairs.
Leave me alive! Actually, I was watching that stunt, and I was like, "Wow, that's a pretty good roll down the stairs." And then he falls off the stairs.
He falls off the stairs
the
into
side.
like a coffin or something.
Well, there's all this stuff, so you don't see what he's falling
Yeah.
on. So it's obviously like 6 feet of cushions.
Yeah.
it was
for
a
the
shit
poor
ton of
stuntman.
stairs, and he falls really slow.
Right.
Like
Right.
and those stairs are made of fucking like hard
Those
English
are rock.
brick.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is probably why he fell very slow.
Yeah.
Because
And back then there weren't no stunt doubles, so they were like, Dwight Fry, do it.
Yeah.
He's
It's
like
Pee Wee Herman.
Probably
and,
led to his was deaf 12 years later.
It might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been. Dwight Fry's like, I don't really want to do that, guys. And they're like, look, you want that $12 stipend extra, right? You want the $12 we offered you for daily expenses? Fall down the fucking stairs. So he does the fucking somersault down the fucking stairs.
Please, Master,
He's
don't
dead.
kill me.
No more Renfield.
Yep.
And then the movie basically severely goes into
grinds to a screeching halt.
Grinds to a screeching halt.
Van
Dracula,
Helsing rips apart some wood and gets a steak.
he finds a pallet that's been sitting there. It might have been what the coffins came on. But
It said, "Get your steaks here."
Get your steaks here. And then he breaks a piece off. We don't see it. We just hear Dracula scream in the back. Oh, we hear him scream in the background.
Yeah.
And then Mina just snaps out of it. It's
Right,
not even
immediately.
like apparently they've tried to make vampirism in movies so much like almost like there was allegories
blood
like
link.
AIDS and all this stuff where it's like this is like a disease. But for her it's just like, oh, it's just a phase.
Yeah.
Like Dracula dies, she's like, I'm better now.
Oh, I'm over that.
I'm over that.
Where's Jonathan?
Where's Jonathan? I'm totally into him again. Jonathan, you remember all the stuff I said about us breaking up? Didn't mean it.
So apparently the original version had a much longer and louder scream by Dracula. And then
Can you do that one?
I can't do it.
No.
But they thought it would be too scary for moviegoers, so you got
Okay, I'll do it. You know what it was? It was this. Ow! God damn it! That was your.
and there was an epilogue.
I read about the epilogue.
Okay, several years later, whatever, and they're happily married, Harkin and fucking
Okay, no, I didn't read about the epilogue. I read about. I guess there was originally like not a scene in the movie, but there was like a producer's thing at the end, like what you just saw was not real.
Yeah,
I
that's
see.
Yeah.
Because they want people to not worry about these non-dangerous vampires.
When they used to show that on TV, they would show that one thing on the end of the, end of the show. I mean, and then it would fade to black.
What you just saw was a work of fiction.
And I'm like,
if
really?
anything scared you, go dump your head in the river because that wasn't scary at all.
Now again, when you talk about the ending of the film, the ending of the Spanish film is better.
Does he go, ay!
Ay, caramba!
The staking scene is much better. They show more. You actually see him put the stake on and go to hammer it before they cut away.
No, all we got was him breaking wood in half.
Yeah, and if you remember the other
Give me
version,
a rock.
the stake was just like small, like a couple of. In the Spanish version, it's like fucking like almost as long as Van Helsing. It's like a fucking huge fucking stake. And then the way Mina, I don't remember what the hell her name is in Spanish.
It's like Anna, I think.
Yeah, the way she comes back is definitely better acting.
She
Actually,
not
there's
saying
actually
much,
a reaction. It's not just like, oh, hi. Oh, hello, what's happened?
She's literally just like, can we go to the Sizzler now?
We going to Sizzler. We going to Sizzler. So
Oh, man.
Dracula in a nutshell.
Yeah. Lloyd, do you have any?
Yeah.
Do you have any I know you got all the notes. Do you have any factoids that we should know about Dracula?
Well, it was well received.
Yeah. Made 5 sequels to the motherfucker.
It premiered on February 14th,
Valentine's Day.
1931.
Was Valentine's Day a thing then?
Yeah.
Sure it was.
I thought Valentine's Day was created much later.
I want to suck your chocolate.
Actually, I'm going to change what I said. It didn't premiere. It was released on that day. It premiered 2 days earlier.
Okay. So that was with the red carpet and everything.
Yeah, red carpet and everything. And there were reports that people were fainting away in the aisles due to the horror that they saw on screen. And, of course, that put more asses in the seats. So
I do know that the girl in the very beginning that's reading the travel guide in the stagecoach,
yes,
she was the cousin of the producer Carl
Laemmle. Yeah, Carl Laemmle.
And she was one of the last big stars of the silent era.
Yeah,
her name it was Laemmle was her last name.
It
but
might
she
have
was
even been Carla.
I think
Carla. Yeah,
Carla. I think it was
she was
Carla.
one of the last like major stars of the silent era
Right.
to cross over into the talkies, but she didn't do much in the talkies.
Yeah,
I know, the talkies.
When I say talkies, I feel like I should be doing the I should be doing this with my arms.
Say what you mean. Say what you mean.
So yeah, but like Lloyd said, the success was incredible. and
And
led
it led
to
to
Frankenstein right
Yep.
away.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were like, all right, this is
That
working.
fucking bastard, that Boris Karloff.
Boris Karloff can eat my shit for all I care.
Was that Ed Wood? Was that Ed Wood?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want, is my dog in
Boris
here?
Karloff can
Yeah,
eat my shit.
There's a dog in there. That fucking bastard.
Fuck Boris Karloff.
There's a reason he won an Oscar for that. Oh my god.
So, Larry,
he's
I'm not
so
going to
good.
ask you to. I'm not going to ask you to rate these necessarily.
Sure.
In terms of order, but would you say Dracula, 1931? So the 8 movies that we're going to be doing with Larry over the course of the next few months and going in through 2019. So we got Dracula. In terms of order, I know the next one's Frankenstein.
That fucking bastard.
I'm not sure of the total order of the rest, but we got The Mummy, Phantom of the Opera, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Wolfman, and Bride of Frankenstein.
Yep.
So would
Oh,
you?
no Son of Wolfman?
No Son of
No
Wolfman.
Son of Wolfman.
Where would you put this? Like on the higher end, lower end?
I'd put it on the higher end.
Really?
I really would. Listen, you're watching it now, and this is never. I would not. If some 18-year-old kid said to me, "Wait, what horror movie should I watch?" I'm never telling him 1931.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Not going to work. You're not going to like it if you're a kid.
Right.
You have to be our age. I'm never going to show this to my kids. They'll have no interest
I gotta be
whatsoever.
honest.
They'll laugh through the whole thing.
I will say this: we did meet a young kid. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he was over the age of 18, and I think it was at Terrificon.
Terrificon, yeah.
But is he a film guy?
He loves all the original horror stuff.
He's probably a film guy.
Yeah.
That's different.
I think this kid's 18. Gary McGinnis is his name.
Was it Gary?
He's a great kid. We met him through the Charlton people. This kid is, I think he's Fred Savage from. He's one of those body switch movies that never got back because he's just like 18 and he loves old comics and he listens to old music.
I thought it was some other kid that was into that.
No, Gary.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
this
right.
kid's into all that shit.
Yeah, well, Gary's he's a unique personality.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So for me, I don't think this movie works for a younger generation.
Hold on, no.
But
Let me tell you, you know my daughter Sophie.
Yes.
She watched it with me and enjoyed it.
Really?
Well, that's
13
good.
years old.
13 though, but maybe not like your kid's age.
Yeah.
Yeah, your kids are more in like
My
what,
kids
like
are-
7, 8,
yeah.
9. Yeah.
Oh, well,
7, 8,
seven,
9,
that's-
they
7
won.
and 4.
7 and 4.
Yeah,
7 and 4,
that's-
yeah.
And they went
Too young,
basket
yeah.
case.
But they haven't seen that yet. But they do love 30 Days a Night. But where's he going? Oh, for me, the connotations it brings back. My father showing me these things. I love horror. I love old film. I like it. I've always liked it. It's definitely, I would say, if I had to break it into thirds, it's in the top third of Universal
All right.
films for me.
I got to be honest, as being someone like kind of where I'm the guy that hasn't seen these movies, as a movie, I take it, again, with the 1931 reminder and understanding that. I appreciated everything about this movie, but I can't say I liked the movie. You know what I mean? I appreciated what they did. I thought a lot of the effects were cool. There was some creepiness factor to it. But in the end, this one I don't know. And again, I haven't seen the rest. So the next time we convene, we're going to do Frankenstein. We'll probably do 2 the next time.
What was your favorite effect? Come on, the guys in the ship.
No, honestly, it wasn't even.
It was one of those bats, wasn't it?
There was 2 scenes that I thought were very.
I found one of the bats.
There was two scenes I thought were very cool. And they weren't effects. They were just camera shots that I really appreciated. Was Renfield crawling towards the camera was awesome. And the other one was at the end of the movie. I think it was when Dracula was going to meet Renfield at the bottom of the stairs when Renfield was begging for his life.
Yeah.
And Dracula's like walking down the stairs with like one arm up.
Yeah.
And it's this camera shot of him coming around that giant staircase.
It's a big staircase, too.
It was just a really cool shot. And again, there was a lot of really cool things in this movie. Just as a cohesive movie, I didn't come out of it going, okay, I'm dying to watch that again. But I will say this, I do plan on checking out the Spanish version in entirety because I'm interested in what Larry said. And from the little bit that I watched, I was impressed by, again, I had initially thought like this is just going to be like the same movie filmed just with the different people in the costumes. And it wasn't because it was a different director too.
Yeah.
So the different director obviously was able to give different, don't do it this
I
way,
have
do
to
it that
wonder
way.
what Todd Browning thought about that. This guy watching his own rushes and then refilming it.
Yeah.
You have to wonder.
And I guess another question is, and I mean, maybe we could talk about this on the next show, although Lloyd probably has it in his notes. It's
pretty intense note.
Why was this the only one they did that with?
I don't know that it was. I'd have to do some.
Okay, because I know that none of my other movies have Frankenstein was what, a year or two later?
Yeah.
And there wasn't like I've heard of the Spanish Dracula. I had never heard of a Spanish Frankenstein or Mummy.
had a different development to it, so there was a lot more going on there than Dracula, which was already a successful play.
Right.
So you're looking at that too. Plus, it's Frankenstein. How do you make that appealing to an audience? And well, obviously James Whale did, but that's
next show.
That's next show.
That's next show here on the Pint. We'll be recording with Larry doing that, and we'll probably the same night do whatever the next one in the line is. So Lloyd, were you a fan at the end? Were you like, okay, I'm in for more?
For me, I thought the ending just kind of happened pretty abruptly.
Pretty abruptly.
And like if you even
it's the end of the movie.
failed to pay attention for a second, if your mind went elsewhere, you kind of were lost in what was happening.
Yeah.
When the whole movie,
literally,
every other scene,
the movie ends.
The whole hour and 22 minutes.
They stake Dracula. Mina snaps out of it. They're walking up the stairs to go to Sizzler, and then the end. They hit you with the end, and I'm like, I thought there'd be more. I thought we'd find out, because all Van Helsing says is he'll be there shortly or something. You figure. I'm thinking maybe he's going to burn this motherfucker down or something, but they don't really say anything. And then it's just Mina and Harker going to fucking dinner, and that's
old
it.
Man Van Helsing. So,
yeah.
But some of the effects that I liked, like you said, there's not much in special effects in this, but I do like the way, and they tried to establish this multiple times. They didn't do it greatly, but Dracula, when he walked upstairs or downstairs, he seemed to float.
Oh, okay.
If you watch again, it's not like he floated up the stairs. But the way he walked, he was attempting to make it a very fluid movement.
Right.
All right. So I kind of like that. I appreciated what they were doing there. And believe it or not, I did like the stare, the glamoring stare of Dracula. It was just one of my favorite parts of the movie. Every time that came up,
well, it had to be.
There it is.
It had to be your favorite part. They did it 77 times. And Dracula's in the fridge looking for like milk, and he sees the milk and he's just staring at it. That looks tasty.
Bring me milk.
Someone farts in the room and he turns around. He's like, "Who was that?"
I actually have a Bela Lugosi painting on my wall, done by a friend of mine, and he actually did the lighting across the eyes.
Oh man!
Oh yeah! Oh, that is great.
That's awesome.
You know what? Send me that picture, and I'll put that up when we put this episode out.
I'll take a better one.
What's your friend's name?
Felipe Saltoro.
Nice.
Yeah, he's done a bunch. He's done a Nosferatu. He's done a bunch of stuff.
You're gonna make Lloyd jealous. Lloyd's got a Nosferatu boner.
He's done a ton. Beautiful Frankenstein, Mummy. He's done a bunch of stuff for me. He's a hell of an artist, that kid. Cool. But I always loved that he did the light across the eyes. It's like you can't. That's what I was bummed about this shirt, because the shirt doesn't really.
It kind of does.
It is a little.
It kind of does. It just goes further down below his nose.
What music they make.
What music they make. I'll have a number 4 with fries. Everything he says in that accent is just cooler than the way we talk.
Sure. Yeah,
I think it might be diarrhea.
I've always liked the film.
Yeah,
it's definitely one that always stuck with me. And
burns
I'll
so
admit
much.
that a lot of it is probably just
Eddie, I need you.
just reminders of childhood.
Yeah.
That's that's big for me. So it's probably a lot more of that than the fact that it's a good movie, because it's very rushed. There's not much in the way of story.
There's not a lot of actual first and second acts, and it's just
It feels like a play.
It feels like a play. And again, I'm not saying this is a bad movie, and I'm suggesting if you haven't seen it out there, check it out.
Sure.
Because it is, in the end, it is a classic. It doesn't matter whether I could sit here and say I want to watch it 10 more times, but it is a classic, and there's a reason that, again, why that version of Dracula is everybody's kind of go-to version.
Right.
So,
It says something when we're talking about Bela Lugosi, and yes, there's a Muppet basically based off of him for kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big influence.
And you got to think about too, just for the Muppet thing, when the Muppets were created, let's say in the 70s when the Count was probably created, it was only 35 years after this, or 40 years after this. So there was definitely a lot more connection. But here we are, 40 years past that, and people still know Bela Lugosi was fucking Dracula.
Yeah. Right.
That's pretty. I mean, we're almost we're almost 100 years later, and people are still, this movie's fucking almost 100 years old.
Yeah.
And
it's in the National Film Registry, from the Library of Congress.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it is, again, you think of Dracula, even today, even me not having seen this before, I think of Bela Lugosi.
Right.
Yeah.
Which what Nosferatu was 10 years earlier,
Right.
1922.
22, yeah.
22. But still, for everybody, it's that Bela Lugosi. Well, Nosferatu was also buried for years.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to watch it.
I've never seen that either. I'd like to watch that.
You should watch that.
It's different.
It's far scarier than Dracula.
You know what we're going to do?
Max Shrek is something else.
You know what we're going to do since we have
It's who they based Barlow. The look
I've
of
got
Barlow.
it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've got that on Blu-ray or DVD. Or
I was
something.
going to say is what we should do. We talked about this earlier. Is we're going to finish off, the 8 episodes, and then we should just pick a couple movies that have kind of branched off of this and do those as well.
Sure. Yeah,
Freaks. The one we mentioned before because I've heard a lot about it.
Cabinet of Dr.
Dr. Caligari.
Yeah.
Should probably do the Lon Chaney Hunchback.
Yeah. So you know what we'll do is we'll branch off into. We'll do
a
the
whole
Scary
bunch of
Larry's
Poe movies.
Universal horror movies, and then we'll just maybe go into Scary Larry's classic horror movies. We'll bring that out. But for now, this is Pint of Comics. Manster, Sir John, Johnny Ganache, and special guest Scary Larry Dwyer. Don't forget, April 20th, maybe. Maybe not. By the time this comes out, it'll probably be settled better. But Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2.
That's right.
At the Strand Theater, $10.
That's Freddy. Fuck him.
That Robert Englund, he's just ripping me off.
Robert Englund can lick my shit for all I care.
I kind of liked him, and then I saw that second movie. What was all the homo shit?
I am the original.
That second Elm Street was really fucking gay. That's when you lost me, Robert.
Oh, man.
John, what do we say when we want to go? Bye-bye.
See you.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.
Things felt weird.
Testing 1 2, test 1 2. These things felt weird.
They felt weird. Everything feels weird. I'm warming up the chair now. So
There you go.
There we
Keep
are.
it nice and warm.
It's definitely different from last year.
Yeah, it is. A lot of couches in here. Oh, look, Robin Hood and his brave men. Or someone religious, I'm not sure.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, okay. I thought so.